where we've focused on is not just the inspection and the analysis reporting component.
It's just information.
Yeah.
Or like just data.
Yeah.
Then you're moving to a piece where it's more structuring that data and collecting it, but making judgment calls on it.
The big challenge is, I guess, not just from an engineering standpoint, but from an owner's standpoint, is if you've got the complete asset scanned that can be referenced at any time of the day, now into the future, even if something is identified in a year's time, you can always then wind back to that specific point. That never happened unless by chance there was something there that somebody took a photo of, because a big misconception, oh, this must take weeks or months. But from a capture uploaded, so just the photos uploaded this afternoon, that's ready for any engineer anywhere in the world to be able to do inspection tomorrow morning. When we look at the remediation planning component, we've seen the biggest amount of cost savings come out of that. A highly experienced technical engineer up to a board level that barely uses tech. They all have to be able to use it.
What if the biggest risk to our infrastructure isn't aging concrete or corroded steel, but the assumptions that we still make about them? In this episode, I sit down with Derek Feebrey, a CEO and co-founder of Trendspek, to explore what happens when engineers stop sampling and start seeing everything. Derek's platform is enabling 3D capture and digital inspection of critical assets, turning what used to be incomplete site visits into a shared virtual one source of truth. From heritage buildings to high-stakes industrial assets, Derek's work is helping owners and engineers align with one fundamental shift, moving from representative inspections to evidence-based decisions. So here's the question we're chasing today. When your data is complete, transparent, and even interactive, how does that change what you fix, what you fund, and what you protect? Welcome to the Structural Intelligence Podcast, the show where we explore the intersection of engineering, technology, and innovation. I'm your host, Owen Keenan, structural engineer, entrepreneur, and tech enthusiast. Each episode brings together innovators, experts, and thought leaders who are pushing the boundaries of what's possible in engineering and technology. Through deep conversations and practical insights, we explore how new tools, techniques, and mindsets are reshaping our industry. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Structural Intelligence Podcast. I'm your host, Owen Keenan, structural engineer, entrepreneur, and tech enthusiast. Each episode, I sit down with people pushing the boundaries at the intersection of engineering and technology. Today, I sit down with Derek Feebrey, who's the CEO and co-founder of Trendspek, a platform that's changing the way we approach asset inspections, strategy, and risk management. From universities to ports to heritage buildings, Derek and his team are helping owners and engineers move from assumptions to evidence. So I'd like to welcome Derek to the show. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
No worries. I guess I've given a bit of a spiel, but you want to introduce yourself?
So I'm Derek. I'm one of the co-founders of Trendspek. What we've built is Trendspek is a structural lifecycle management platform that has been bred from over 10 years in the industry around technology and asset management and asset inspection. Mm-hmm. So having started one of the first commercial drone companies in Australia back in 2011, that typically then led us into inspections as a service, but quickly learning that data management and the actual use of drone information, such as photos or video, left a gap in how you actually use that information. So never went into it wanting to start a software company. It was purely bred out of a need from clients and us doing a global search where we were in a position where we waited for it to happen or we went and built it ourselves. So we went down that path, quickly realized that this was a global problem, and then Trendspek was born and has just kept growing from there since.
Yeah, wow. That's interesting. I like your background. You mentioned you were a pilot.
Yeah, 20 years in aviation, flown everything from 6-seat twin planes across outback Australia to regional turboprops through to 747s internationally. So 20 years in, and it was ironic because it was kind of when we went into the drone space back then, there was no such thing as being able to buy one off the shelf. So it was all kitchen table built, multiple components, and the regulatory body, or Civil Aviation Safety Authority for Australia, didn't know what to do with them. So you actually needed a commercial pilot's license
Wow.
to fly a drone commercially.
So there you sit there with a pilot's license.
So we had the pilot's license. I had a bit of a photography background as well.
Yeah,
so
right.
the two combined, and then it led from there.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a perfect mix then.
Yeah. A bit left field.
Yeah, that's it. Like from 747s, and then at least you know your way around the air and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think it's very similar. It's the type of person that a pilot is very similar to the type of person like a engineer or the actual inspection component. It's very risk focused, very procedural, and there's structure behind it, especially around decision making. So I've noticed a transfer in the quality or the type of person. So I think that's where we naturally gravitated into inspection.
Yeah. I guess your time with that, like you mentioned, you started off with the drones.
Yeah.
And you were seeing that pinch point, that pain point. Like what sort of eventuated that sort of thought process and then transitioning to maybe, okay, what can we do for assets? Like how did in your journey as a roadmap, as a founder, I guess?
Yeah, so like we knew that what we were doing in the drone space was unsustainable long term. So if you're looking at doing an inspection, and I think it started with a set of grain silos.
Right.
Like 24 grain silos. I think we handed over like a USB of God knows how many, 10,000 photos. And then they're all real close up. So how is anyone supposed to decipher what it is and where it is on these silos that are 50, 60 meters high?
Yeah.
And the 12 of them, 150 meters long, and then you're trying to pinpoint hairline cracks and where that sits.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we knew we had to work on that, and it was really the advent around 3D modeling that we wanted to do. So taking what Google Earth is, but taking it to the millimeter.
Yeah, right. Was like the micro level, essentially. Yeah. I've been there with millions of photos because obviously I do a lot of structural inspections as well. And it's like, where is this or what is this? And you've got to like a file full of like Western elevation. And then you're trying to figure out, okay, where is it? Or you've got like a markup of a picture that you've taken or on site or whatever. But it is a pain point. Like 100%. Yeah.
So 3D was really the first component of where we went into to solve that problem. But then it's just a downstream set of problems we then just started solving. Like from a photo, what do you get out of that besides the visual component? No ability to, understand size, dimensions, context.
Yeah.
So that's where the modeling then took its next leap in doing a lot of the analytical tools around it. So being able to take all the measurements. Then that was a solution to a part, and then another problem would pop up in the reporting component, and then another one's popped up with the remediation. So we've built over the years, and why we kind of defined it as structural lifecycle management is because where we've focused on is not just the inspection and the analysis reporting component, but then into the planning, remediation, monitoring, back into the inspection, and just let that cycle continue. So we know where we fit, and that's definitely where we fit as a software company now.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So I guess breaking it down a little bit as well, I'd love to go into the nitty gritty about what Trendspek does, you know, and the platform or like the capture or whatever, but where would you start?
So where we start is the modeling component. What we've built out over the years, and this is more tracking how we've seen organizations, especially owners of big portfolios of assets, work through what we call now our maturity stages. So if we're looking at present day, the status quo, there's a lot of talk about technology, but most will still sit in field, on-site workflows. They'll still have people go, they'll still use cherry pickers, rope access, the way it's been done for hundreds of years.
Yeah, that's right,
We've then seen some move to like a stage zero in which is the technology led, and that's using things like drones, robotics to start doing a lot of that in-field work. But really that's starting and finishing at just data collection, data handover.
Right.
It still doesn't get effectively used. And by that, I include things of like using a drone to take their photos and put out a model.
Yes.
3D model, for example.
Sure, yeah.
It's still in that phase. So a model itself is just something fun to play with.
Yeah.
It'll give a lot of organizations the ability to zoom in and understand and do that visual component. But where we've seen the big transformation is when they go into what we call like stage one, and that's actually doing the inspections digitally.
Right.
So that's not just looking at a model and then still typing up a War and Peace style inspection report that's hundreds of pages, or taking screenshots of things and putting it in a traditional report. That is transitioning to a digital inspection where we look at it being able to mark up or draw in 3D. So draw that crack and corrosion and any bits that are concerning.
Yeah.
But then having that ability to standardize the analysis and report, and by that building out reporting templates. So it doesn't matter which engineer is doing it or writing it. It's formatted so it stays standard and consistent. And that's either across engineers, cross engineering consultancies, regardless of who's doing it. We're now getting a standard format across a portfolio.
And for the asset owners, I suppose they like to see it the way they want to see it as well. And if they want to sort of engage whoever, they're able to see it in one consolidated / uniform way.
Exactly. Because we've heard things like a dozen different outputs for the same defect. It might be what's an example? Like we had one that was like tile damage. We had another one that was damaged tile, broken tile, and there's like a dozen different outputs for the same defect. There was no standardization or consistency.
And then a four-dimensional type of like time-based thing as well. I mean, you don't know if that's the same defect or if it's a different defect as well. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So from what I see here is you've got this stage 0 up front where it's basically a standalone image type of thing, whether it's a model or photos or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just information.
Yeah.
Or like just data.
Yeah.
And then you're moving to a piece where it's more structuring that data and collecting it, but making judgment calls on it.
Yep.
Yep.
And making it actual usable that anyone can use, because the big challenge is, I guess, not just from an engineering standpoint, but from an owner's standpoint, is there's varying levels of technicality. So it's keeping it simple that it doesn't matter if it's a highly experienced technical engineer up to a board level that barely uses tech. They all have to be able to use it, understand it.
Yeah. So it's a bit more like it sort of brings people to brings the team together essentially around, because there are decision makers.
Yeah.
And then there are the technicians that will actually do it. That's pretty interesting. I'd love to get into that a little bit more as we sort of dive deep. So just to go a little bit more on the platform. So in terms of the capture process, would you take any data? Like, how does it work? Do you capture the data? Like, what's your offering? Like, how does it?
So for us, we sit agnostic to the data import and capture method. So there's two different options that we've seen. We've seen a big trend in engineering firms internalizing a capture program, and that's using drones and robotics, like water robotics and underwater robot, everything in between.
Yeah.
We've seen engineering firms start internalizing that, or they have existing supplier network of capture companies that do the work for them. So that's one input that we get. Alternatively, we have and can facilitate that capture component for different organizations. So that's the actual capture component. The second part is the data. So what we're known for is the reality modeling or photogrammetry. So that's using photos to build the actual model.
Yes. Yep.
Second part is agnostic to everything. So it can come in the form of laser scans. It can come in the form of thermal imaging. We also ingest BIM modeling. So 3D BIM model overlaid with reality gives the ability to then see clash detection of what's built to spec or what's not conforming to the actual design.
Yeah.
So all forms of data, but inherently the data we're bringing in is helping inform the inspection report or the planning of remediation and capital works.
Right. So you got that data, you've got the platform, and then you got the reporting. Like, what's the sort of deliverables that you can cut from that, and how does it work?
So once the asset has been inspected, the visual component, typically they'll draw on it and then make all their analysis, do their analytical pieces. Then what that output is actually a 3D interactive report. So instead of a paper-based one or a PDF-based one, it's now a 3D interactive one where you can then filter, just show me cracks, just show me corrosion, just show me high criticality ones that need to be done now. So it then takes flipping through pages or scrolling through PDFs to just having that information in a 3D world that's fully digestible.
Yeah, right.
And different people will want different things. Like if as part of the standard report, is this a CapEx problem or an OpEx problem? People from an owner's perspective, their finance team or capital works planning team just want to quickly filter in a second, where's my CapEx? And okay, now what's my CapEx that needs to be done in the next 12 months?
Yeah, that's right. Planning. Yeah, time frames and stuff. Yeah.
Where before it's going through PDFs and they're actually going through these PDFs and having to then transcribe that into a different spreadsheet something like that.
Yeah.
So we're eliminating that component.
Yeah, great. So it's I guess it captures pretty much the whole flow of an asset and like the capturing of the condition of an asset.
Exactly.
Right. So I think some of the key points that I sort of took out of what you were saying is, and from my experience as an engineer doing these inspections, is that, we will do maybe representative type of inspections.
Yep.
We'll go out there and we'll see everything that we can see visually. We might take a drone up and then go through that data as well and transpose it into, like he's talking about, the PDF reports or Excel spreadsheets or however you want to do it. But it's almost always representative.
Yeah.
You can't always get the things and analyze the things that you need to. But you say, okay, this part of the condition is in sort of poor condition. We've seen sample A, B, C, D, E. They're all sort of fair. Maybe we'll generalize it to fair and then we'll make our calls or our decisions off of that.
Yep.
From what I'm hearing is like you can actually, you've actually got a set of data. You've got it in a way that you can use it. You probably be able to make better decisions out of that.
10 times. So typically part of our process when working, especially with an owner of these portfolios, we do a full risk assessment from top to bottom, their challenges and their risks around the inspection all the way through to the monitoring and record keeping. This one comes up time and time again. So from a representative inspection, and look, I fully understand the cost and time to do a complete inspection is cost prohibitive most of the time. We've seen representative inspections of like a building, for example, take 3 to 5 days with rope access.
It does, yeah. That's what it takes.
And then from an owner's perspective, I'm then just given a report that is heavily assumptive based on the building, based on what's seen.
Correct,
but then I only have components of what's been seen that's actually been recorded.
Yes. Yeah. So, and to the judgment of the inspector or to the judgment of whatever, or to the scope that's defined as well.
And this is not a criticism of engineering. It's just what the feedback from an owner's perspective is. One of the big risks is the experience and technical capability of the engineer doing the inspection. if it is actually an engineer doing rope access.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it might be technician or whatever, yeah.
And then there's challenges that go down even to, are they having a good day? Do they have enough sleep? Are they just tired and gone past something? So there's that human element. And then you can never go retrospectively. Like that inspection's done, those data points are collected, that's all you have in that point of time. Where the big shift is, if you've got the complete asset scanned that can be referenced at any time of the day, now into the future, even if something is identified in a year's time, you can always then wind back to that specific point. That never happened unless by chance there was something there that somebody took a photo of.
That's right. Where's that photo? Or have we got a photo of that? I remember going through tick, 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 like trying to see if I've got an actual shot of that from the previous one as well.
And the chances of that are slim.
Yeah, that's right.
We've got others that are supposed to take those reports and then put them into other systems like your SAPs and Maximo's things to track a lot of this. A lot of the time that doesn't even get done. So those reports then are living in somebody's computer from an owner's perspective, or Jim had them all and Jim retired last month and they're all gone now. So it's the consistent trend used to shock me to a degree, but now that it's just so standard, probably that's why there's the biggest generational shift in the way these assets are managed, because of the practices that have been going on for such a long time.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I've seen the advent of this technology advancing fairly quickly, I suppose. But because we have more compute, we can do a lot more from what we could have previously done, you know?
Yeah. Even from like, we started back in 2018, even the leaps and bounds in what are we, 2025?
That's right, yeah.
7 years, it is completely changed in terms of capability since we first started with compute power, how quickly we can process it. Because the big misconception, this must take weeks or months. But from a capture uploaded, so just the photos uploaded, this afternoon, that's ready for any engineer anywhere in the world to be able to do inspection tomorrow morning.
There you go. That's and I think what we're seeing now is the ability and capability for us to be able to do more of what we couldn't have done before with the data that we've got today.
Yeah,
essentially. And so I like that. So we've sort of like dig deep a little bit into the platform and how it works and what it is, but also just generally some decision making power. And I'd like to sort of extend upon that a bit. I was thinking, cool, now you've got more than representative inspections.
Yep. So
you can actually make a judgment call on things as a whole. You know, how have you seen that benefit some of your clients, and how has that been sort of a benefit to them as a feature?
Yeah. So I might backtrack to the inspection component is where it's typically focused on. But the biggest, and as we talked about, you're getting more information faster, more cost effective. But that part of the life cycle is dwarfed by the remediation part of it. When we look at the remediation planning component, we've seen the biggest amount of cost savings come out of that. Purely because if we're looking at record keeping as a whole, that report is then transferred into remediation planning. That report can then be shared with multiple contractors who are bidding for that work. And we've seen the same work quote in terms of quoting range for one job range from 50,000 to 300,000. Same job. One's dismissed the report entirely, going, no, don't trust that. Here's my quote with all my contingencies and backups and everything in it. That other one's gone, yeah, I completely trust it based on this. This is the price, and here's all my provisional sums and my assumptions because I'll get you back in the variation cost to come. So this, from an owner's perspective, is one of the biggest challenges, because either I've got that big variation, I pick the one in the middle, and I don't know a lot, or I'm making my best guess of how much this is going to cost. But it's why we've seen some remediation blow out by millions or tens of millions, which is unbudgeted for. So suddenly they've got to find that money. Or they're actually running a competitive process where then they've got their different contractors going to site. But then are they getting back up on ropes? Are they hiring cherry pickers again, which some do? So now instead, and this is one of the challenges that we worked on and we built the component for, is being able to isolate part of an asset with a set of markups that is part of the remediation project, and then share it to multiple contractors so they all log in and do that remotely. Because then they can validate, take their own measurements and work out their own quantities, access, resource requirements, and put in then a more accurate quote. Gives certainty and assurance to multiple people. And then if a remediation project then comes down by 10% on a $50 million project, that's the savings strip, the inspection savings.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
A mass amount.
Basically eclipses it, yeah.
Yeah. And then if you then follow that into the ongoing monitoring, so if it's an annual, biannual inspection process, start monitoring trends, this is the added saving of being able to then pick, well, this hasn't changed at all in a year or 2 years. Let's put that in our deferred maintenance and we'll look at it again next time. Where typically they may have sent somebody out to fix something that didn't necessarily be needed to be fixed.
Yeah.
So if I've got a fixed budget, and most of the budgets are all shrinking as well, so instead of using that based on those representative inspections, where there's a lot of assumptions, fancy word for guess. If I've got a short budget, instead of spending that on guesswork, I've actually got defensible and auditable record to base those capital works and then spend it based on proper risk profile across a portfolio. Ultimately, where we see the biggest benefit is them being able to use that budget to extend asset life because it's being spent at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, great. So I think with that, I'd love to get into an example. I think one that I saw that was quite interesting was the Sydney Uni.
Yeah, so
some old heritage buildings there, probably pretty tricky in terms of access and other things.
Yeah. So yes, Sydney University they're nominated for the Project of the Year for Engineers Australia.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of how they went through different maturity stages.
Yeah.
So they started with just a couple of their heritage buildings, scanned. They actually had engineering consultants do the visual assessment, but not in some in Sydney, some in Melbourne. So multiple engineers were able to do those visuil assessments.
And that was on the model?
That was directly on the model.
Yep.
And then that expanded to their whole portfolio. And their portfolio is quite mixed because, you've got heritage sandstone with intricate grotesques and gargoyles, like intricate. And then they've got ultra-modern buildings too. And the interesting thing was there was no differentiation in terms of they all had their issues, regardless if it was brand new or actually probably industry-wide, we see more problems with newer buildings than the older buildings. But so that was component one, and set up a standardized reporting template. So every known defect was tagged and consistent across the portfolio. So you had a whole portfolio view and being able to dissect where the risks were.
Yeah, right.
Where the risks were, which then has now led into the remediation and planning component. So from a engineering and architectural standpoint, they've used those models to import into like the Autodesks to start the design work of remediation plans. It's been used by multiple subject matter experts, so they can get their stonemasons in as if they were there. Their slate roofers, all of these different subject matter experts can now visit site virtually.
Yeah, that's right.
So you've got a big collection of people being able to do these virtual site visits from anywhere. And then now we're into that remediation phase where the different contractors are looking at maintenance works, and they use it for everything now. Even to the point where if a lecturer reports a leak in one of the rooms, they share it with their roofer.
Yeah.
Who can then, before you'd have to go and climb up there to do an assessment, now it's I'm there in 10 seconds. I've logged in. I can see this bit's concerning. This is what it could potentially be. And put those estimates in on, okay, if I go there, what do I need to take with me?
Yeah, it goes through the whole gambit.
Whole gambit.
I like, you mentioned that you keep coming back to it, but it's that collaboration.
Yes.
So it's interesting to see that when there's sort of one source of truth, essentially, but also a platform that allows people to collaborate.
Yes.
You know, you've talked about engineers coming on, you've talked about the contractors coming in, you've talked about asset owners and the different things coming together. That to me is a showcase of like how now that we have the platform for the data and a way that we can see it in such a way, we can actually collaborate better together.
Yep.
You know, and it's not necessarily making the decisions for us, but it's creating something that we can actually make better decisions, but we can also do better work. So I think that's really cool, the collaboration piece. How have you seen that?
That's been the underpinning philosophy of Trendspek from the start. And we've always gone into it. We are one part of an ecosystem, and we work with everyone in that ecosystem. So we're not out to compete with engineers or compete with different contractors, or we're all here to work together. Because the collaborative piece is the most important piece. Because say it's just an inspection company, all they do is the inspection services. What we found is that there's some that think, oh, I'm just doing this because there's a lot of benefits from the engineering consultant or the inspection organization. There's so many benefits to them personally. Safety. It's being able to do more work with the same amount of resources because you're not spending all your money on an engineer whose value is in their IP is what they know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not driving 2-4 hours back and forward to site and then rigging up, and that's not what they're paid for. They're paid for their experience and understanding and knowledge. So if they can be using that more by logging in and doing that, it lets them be 10 times more effective. So there's that, and we've seen engineers who can be a local engineering consultant. Like we work with ones that are based in Melbourne that are now doing structural assessments of LNG tanks in England. So it opens up the world. And then there's all the benefits to the owner. But back to the point, that's just one component of the life cycle. And we're all working with the owners who are the custodian of that asset for a period of time. Some might be the whole asset's life. Some, they might only be the custodian for a period of that asset's life as assets are bought and sold. But there's that component, but it's understanding that around the life cycle, what they're doing impacts the remediation planning, impacts the ongoing lifespan, and impacts then a broader range of different stakeholders like insurers. They play their part in this. especially around risk engineering, business continuity planning, replacement cost assessments.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's so many people that are working to keep this asset performing. That there's always a big picture, and we've always tried to be part of that whole ecosystem to enable everyone. So the collaboration is one of the biggest key areas for us.
Yeah, that's great. And I think more and more as data becomes more ubiquitous, I think the collaboration piece is going to be the main thing. You know, it's we're not going to have to hoard anything because it's going to be there, being able to be usable in a form which you're bringing it together on a platform, which is super cool.
Yeah,
I'd like to dive into a little bit about, okay, so we've got all this information, we've got all this data, we've got a platform that sees it. In the process of time, obviously that's an asset, right? So in the process of time, you're seeing your maintenance plans occur, you're seeing all these things, and the form or the state of the asset changes over time as well. And so when we think about that for your captures or the repairs that are done and the models that you're creating, I think there's two things. There's obviously snapshot in times, but there's also a stage where you actually have the data where you possibly could be predictive about how those things go.
Yep.
You know, and particularly with machine learning and other things like that, I know there's certain technologies at play which you can actually generatively figure out what might happen in the future. It's probably not happening now, but so those are the two things I wanted to jump into.
Yeah.
What are your views on sort of the first and second, I say?
I more put them in the bracket of them being second and third.
Yeah, right.
So first one, or the first big challenge that we're still only going through now, the change management piece around status quo.
Right.
So the digitization of a lot of these workflows is the first big thing to happen. And that's still the biggest challenge, taking people from on-site to online and digitizing that whole life cycle management is challenge one, which we're still facing. So we live in multiple points in history. From an organization point of view, that's still our focus while we're still working on point 2 and 3. But there's still that many people in the world that still live in the philosophy, no, you can't do an inspection digitally. I have to go there and touch it. Two questions. Why? And where are you going to touch? Because we know that typically we're only doing these representative inspections. So you're just going to site and going, oh, I'll touch that. We're getting them to do it digitally and not impeding their ability to go, this is just a visual assessment. This is not saying that at this point I don't need to go and touch, but that's then taking it to an investigation, not just an inspection.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's still a lot of challenges around the digital component. Now, why it's important for that in this 3-step process is step 1, digitizing, doing all of those markups means all of that underlying information, 3D plus it's all built on 2D photos. Doing all of those markups is then building a baseline of data. So that photo then is marked out with corrosion, it's marked out with a criticality. That then builds an underlying set of data that you can then use for part 2, which is the machine learning component. Let's start training machines to actually start helping with the identification of defects.
Right.
And that's another big challenge in yourself because it's only as good as how much data you put into it. So that would be the next stage, is assisting with defect detection, knowing that will take a big period of time just in itself.
That's right, yeah.
Because every defect with every material, every colour needs its own algorithm or model to work off.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Then, so once we get to that point, that will take its time because you'll want to do that over subsequent years to detect this is the crack year 1, this is the crack year 2, this is the crack year 3. Probably part 1B is just detecting change.
Yes.
From 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And then once we build up that foundation, then I think you'd be able to then start using predictive and go, this is what changed in 1 to 2, year 3 to 4, year 4 to 5. Now I get that pattern.
That's right.
Here's what it could potentially look like in year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
And it's interesting as well. You're not isolating the one defect, but because you've got a whole model, you know, predictively and generatively, you would be able to, and probabilistically, you'd be able to like extrapolate. The whole model would be able to extrapolate not just that in isolation.
Yeah.
Because it might be like a settlement defect or something like that, where you can actually see these things happening in a grander scale of things, and you can better risk predict. You can better figure out, okay, actually, is this an issue or not as well?
Yeah.
And that's something that's super interesting to me, because I see that happening with language at the moment with LLMs.
Yep.
You know, it's predictive. You can be able to do that. It's getting quite powerful now with the sense of like you can generate things in pretty much anything, you know, and they're using them for agents and other things. But with this sort of data, engineering, asset data, defect data, I think I look sort of 5 years, and then especially 10 years down the line, this is going to be, once we get past number 1, digitizing and getting through that, you know, it's going to be an amazing shift in how we think about assets. It's an amazing shift how we think about existing like workflows and what we do with them, because it becomes more, we can see things as more of a whole as opposed to going straight into the level of detail.
Yeah.
So that's super interesting for me.
And we need it. As a society, and as I see around the world, there's enough work for everyone over those periods of time. And by that, I mean, if we look at global infrastructure, it's never been in the worst state. Everything was, or most of our big key pieces of infrastructure are all built, 1950s and 60s and 70s, post-World War II. It's the infrastructure boom. Concrete, for example, was the material of choice, probably still is. But fast forward 50, 60, 70 years later, no one ever looked after it. And now it's in all sorts of trouble. But there's no amount of capital in the world or resources or time to rebuild any of this. Yeah. So the only choice is, how do we extend its lifespan as far as we can?
Yep.
And that is through not representative, but having complete information about every asset across the whole portfolio. So with the capital I have and the resources available, it's spent at the right place.
Yep.
So this is where the digitization into the machine learning and defect detection into predictive will play such an important part on where we spend time and money on trying to get the most out of what we've already built.
And there's probably not even enough capital to continue to repair these sorts of things without a clear strategy on how you're going to extend life.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, it's a red flag for asset owners and even those that are working in the industry around this, is that, okay, if we're not taking steps towards that, we're going to be behind in efficiency with all of the infrastructure that's coming through.
Exactly.
We're going to get to a point where, we will be the bottlenecks when a digital platform, machine learning generative platform, will be able to make a quicker, smarter, and more informed decisions moving forward. I wonder what'll happen in the future. But I think it goes to the piece of, as well, around extending the life of existing assets. You got University of Sydney, buildings probably hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
But they provide a heritage value of what we've constructed too. So it's not like we're going to mow down all of the buildings and start again. We're going to refurbish. We're going to do those sorts of things. So it helps us to inform those decisions as well.
And it's funny looking at so many of the underlying motivators. So for us in oil and gas and ports, and underlying motivation is easy. Something breaks. This is costing millions and millions a day.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Things like universities, a bit different because universities worldwide are all attracting students. That's their revenue stream is from students, which is built on reputation. The appearance of buildings and pieces not falling off is important for your reputation.
Yeah.
But I see that definitely in an area that, like the real estate industry, and mainly around the real estate investment trusts, they try and keep things to bare minimum in terms of spend. Probably even like anyone who owns an investment property, you don't want to spend on it if you don't have to. So that's been a challenging one. But to your point, what you're saying, I think that will play its part in what is a good real estate investment trust. That they're trying to attract investors so they can buy their commercial and industrial warehousing, all of that, their portfolio. But I think, that will come into play later on where they become the bottlenecks because they haven't underinvested. They get a reputation of not maintaining and using the best practice, which will then hit them on asset valuations because they're not a good custodian, which then impacts their investment of investors.
That's right. Yeah.
So everything comes, I guess, down to finance in the end.
It does. And motivations as well. So we've taken a bit of a journey.
Yes.
Starting from the nitty-gritty of like data capture, the platform of Trendspek, and how that's working to bring together and collaboration, and also the features and benefits of being able to move to digital, having a model, being able to mark up, having good reporting, which has been great. So I guess to sort of round it out and finish up, I always hand it over to like an AI host.
Yep.
So pretty much he'll close us out. He'll ask you a question, finalize it, and we'll if you have any last words after that, we'll finish up. So,
all right.
Absolutely. And let's wrap this up. Sometimes the biggest leap in structural engineering isn't about having more data, but about turning that data into evidence we can trust. In today's chat with Derek, we saw how shifting from guesswork to full digital transparency isn't just a technical upgrade, it's a mindset shift. We're no longer relying on partial inspections. We're embracing a fully visible, shared, and evidence-based approach. Derek, as we think about that, here's a question. How do you see this shift changing the way engineers and asset owners actually work together on a daily basis?
I like it. Good to get a job in sales. How it will shift. So I think the big part of the shift with how engineers and owners work together on a more daily basis is being able to, firstly is the trust. And we spoke about that. The trust between owner and engineer is tenfold because of the transparency. So it can be a lot more collaborative in terms of understanding portfolio conditions. So if an engineer does an assessment and then provides a recommendation, it's now got the ability for the owner to be taken on that journey because you virtually take them to site, virtually explain the challenges, the context, and why you're making that recommendation versus a written report that they typically don't read. They'll shove in a drawer. So I think the working relationship moves to more partnership with engineer and owner, where they can do everything now together online, but virtually on site, is where the big transformation piece happens.
Of course. course, let's bring it home. Derek, that's a fantastic perspective. The idea of virtually bringing owners along for the ride really does transform the relationship into a partnership. Instead of a report gathering dust, you've got a shared virtual site where decisions just make more sense. And that's a powerful shift for the whole industry. So for everyone listening, if this conversation got you thinking differently about how we manage aging assets or the future of digital inspections, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll find all the links to Derek's work and Trendspek's latest projects in the show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and share it with someone in your network. Thanks for tuning in to the Structural Intelligence Podcast. You're just getting started on this journey of rethinking engineering together.
Thanks, Mr. AI.
Good job.
Oh, he did his job. He did his job great. Look, I appreciate the chat.
No.
It's been good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I think it's been really interesting to see this space, because I've historically just been able to see photogrammetry models and other things like that, but understanding it in a broader context, I think brings it home to what we're actually doing it for.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Did you have any sort of last words you wanted to share?
No, I think it's the understanding, and from what I've seen, successful organizations and how they've done it. The key piece is understanding it's part of the ecosystem around that lifecycle management, and then technology and the shift doesn't have to be instant, and it shouldn't be instant, because we've seen those who just want to go from 0 to 100 crash. But definitely having a multi-phased rollout approach, it is then going from ropes to using robotics to then modeling to then being able to do inspection, remediation, then the integration piece, then the AI piece, but not wanting to jump to the end. It takes a journey, because there's a lot of people that have to join that journey.
Yeah. And then breeds that collaboration as well. No, thank you again. So if this conversation made you rethink on how we manage aging assets or gave you a new perspective on digital inspections, connect with me on LinkedIn or Derek. I'm always sharing ideas at the intersection of structural engineering and tech. You'll find Derek's work and Trendspek's latest projects in the show notes. And if you like this episode, follow or share it to someone in your network. So thanks for listening. This is the Structural Intelligence Podcast.